Good afternoon for you. For me, actually.
Um,
I'm trying to work out the time difference.
Morning.
Oh, it's good
Yeah.
morning, isn't it? I
Yes, it is. Yes.
can
It's
tell I got
not
so
that I just,
confused then.
yeah, it's not that I just wake up, but it's still morning.
Yeah, yeah. And it's late afternoon here. So we are coming
Yeah,
in from opposite sides of the world today.
exactly.
But very excited to talk about discomfort, about why we put up with the things that we put up with and how that affects us when we do ignore discomfort. And we were just talking about this a little bit before we came on to record as well. Did
Mm.
you want to add some stuff in there?
Um, yes, when I before we met today, I was thinking a lot about discomfort and start even recognizing some of them that I was not aware. And as you said, we did chat a little bit before we start recording, and what we talk about um, can definitely be helpful um, for others, not to hear our personal stories, maybe, but experience that we might have with something that we feel that is not really nice, or we even don't know what kind of feeling is. We can't name it, but it's there and it's sitting heavy. And um, I guess the reason why we start ignoring or, you know, do whatever with that discomfort, there is a many reasons for that. And I guess throughout the life, we will if of course if you are willing to work on yourself, we can recognize many of them. And yeah, it's almost like a signals. That's how I see them. The body is trying to send you a message, a signal, like pay attention, pay attention, hey, I'm here. Yes, I know it's not comfortable, but look at me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, I have so many things to talk about, but I know that we
Yes.
should probably start with a little bit around what is discomfort. And
Mhm.
I'm not sure what your answer for this is, but I think for me, I've been thinking about how discomfort comes in so many forms. So we can
Yeah.
have things that make us just a little bit uncomfortable, right through to things that make us really want to run away, that are just so uncomfortable, they're hard to face. And there's this real spectrum in there. But I think that the common thread is that anytime we're uncomfortable, anytime there's discomfort, we usually choose to look away from it. We choose to distract ourselves, to focus on something else, to make, I guess, make life easier in a sense, which
Mhm.
we know that it doesn't because that uncomfortability doesn't necessarily go away and it can build. But I think in those moments we try to make life easier for ourselves by choosing what seems like the easy path. Um, yeah, I don't know if you have any descriptions for discomfort for your sleeve.
Hmm. Well, I don't know if it's a description, but what I think discomfort as a feeling will maybe firstly show up in our body as a feeling, um, especially if it's ignored, and it's usually ignored. That's the problem. And not it's not like we choose to ignore it. You can choose to ignore a message or a phone call, or with a lot of awareness and consciousness that you are doing that, but choosing to ignore um, could be came out of habit, or what we learn in our family, in an environment where we grown up. So that's why I think the body will first, give us a sign that something is going on and that we need to pay attention. And it's never pleasant. That's why it's discomfort, right? So I
Absolutely.
don't have any specific, description or anything to go with these big science words to explain, but that's how I see that when I'm thinking about discomfort.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense to me because like both of us are very tuned into our bodies and both of us are very much like we've learnt to be tuned in. We've learnt to listen to what comes up in our bodies. But I think you're right. I think that for the most part we feel things in our body before we mentally um have that awareness around it. Whether we notice that we feel in our body or not is a different question. But I think that the body certainly gives us those cues. And I mean, for me, I can tell you straight away that it's usually my stomach. Like I'll get that real uneasy feeling in my stomach. I'll start fidgeting with my fingers. Um, and sometimes, depending on how uncomfortable I am,
Mhm.
I like we have these patterns, like you said, that we get from our family, that we get from different people around us about how to deal with discomfort. And so for me, I know if something is really uncomfortable, like it's at that 9 or 10 level, I won't even notice my body because I'll already be disassociating. And I'm someone that teaches people to be in their body. And so that's also a cue for me is I'm so in
Yes.
my body all the time. If I'm not feeling that and I'm instantly going, well, I'm going to go over here and scroll on my phone or watch TV and I want to be out of my body, that's also a cue for me
Yeah.
to go,
Mm.
something's really uncomfortable and I probably need to make a little bit of space to deal with that. Um,
Mm.
and I share that just because for some other people it might be similar. That might get people thinking about, oh, yes, that's what I actually feel in my body when I have that feeling of I want to turn away from something. I want to run away from this conversation. I want to distract myself. I want to disassociate in some way with what's going on in front of me. And that's where that uncomfortability and that discomfort really starts. And it really, like, it genuinely makes me really sad that we are not taught to deal with that
Mhm.
because we then turn away from everything that makes us uncomfortable, whether it's a small conversation, whether it's asking for our needs, like all those things we've spoken about before, right through to things that are big and super uncomfortable and that if they're not dealt with, they I guess almost like fester under the skin a little bit as well.
Yeah.
And it's just such a norm that we're taught to turn away from all of that and focus on anything else, whether it's healthy or not. And it just like I understand how that's happened, but it also just breaks my heart a little bit.
Yes. Well, discomfort start building up in our house while we're growing up. So no wonder it's breaking your heart, my heart, and no wonder it's so hard because the space where we're supposed to feel safe, it's not always safe, or it is. It doesn't have to be necessary some big trauma and big drama in a home. It could come um, from our parents unconsciously because they don't know better and they can only act with what they know and they have in that moment. But just the simple sentences like, it's, when you try to share that feeling, if the answer is, oh, it's nothing, it's gonna pass. It's so childish, don't worry about that. But that can be very dismissive
Hmm.
and send a message that we need to ignore that kind of feelings. Like there is no
Yes.
need to feel that. And that's how we grow up doing absolutely wrong thing, ignoring and suppress the feelings that are not really nice instead of let them go through our body, through our mind, and embrace them, even it's, I don't know, any kind of bad feelings that we can feel, because just because we are taught not to feel them, like,
Yeah.
that's wrong. So
Yes.
that's what brings sadness, really.
Yeah, I think you've just nailed it in that. And I think you're right. I think that's where those seeds start of not dealing with discomfort, like you said, of all those things that we're told that's childish, don't worry about it. You know, you're just being silly, it'll pass, get over it, suck it up, stop being a princess, like, you know, all those things that we're conditioned to then believe and to think about. And I have a friend actually who her voice is in my head at the moment, and she always says things like if her child is struggling to do something and people want to come in and then rescue, and they're like, oh, let me
Mhm.
help, let me show this child how to do it, let me make it easier for them. And she's like, why can't we struggle? Why can't we struggle for a moment? And it doesn't necessarily have to be your child. You can do it with your partner, you can do it with your friends, um, you know, even people at work, and go, why not just let them struggle for a moment? Let them be in it. Let them work out how to problem solve. Let them think their way through it for a moment before you come in and try to be the hero. And I think
Yes.
that's a lot of where that learning not to deal with discomfort also comes from, is from everything you've just said. And then also that, um, I guess, desire we have as humans to go, I don't want to see someone else struggle. So let me just swoop in and make it easy for them. And when we never learn to sit with the struggles, which are also forms of discomfort, and when we're told to shove down our feelings and push them aside all the time, then we learn to do that as adults as well. And it can really lead to some catastrophic things, I think, in the body, in the emotions, in the way that we show up. And like that sounds like a really dramatic word to use, but in terms of just reacting to situations, in terms of moving through things and the nervous system, I think it can be quite catastrophic. Um, did you have anything you wanted to share about what do you think happens when we don't deal with discomfort and we push it aside for a long time?
Well, while you were talking, something very interesting appeared in my mind and helped me to understand my ex-partner, what he was
Mm,
going through. Just that scene that you describe, how we want to make the life easier with our kids and what that can cause in the future. Um, you see, he's a person who always had a very strong need to make somebody else's life easier. You know,
mm,
that most of the time did not sit well with me because let me try, and I might, that might be mistake and I might do that wrong, but very strong feeling that I need to do that and learn. And I could not understand um, where that coming from, and I was upset most of the time because he want to help, and then there is a huge misunderstanding between us because he see that as but I just want to help, and I am upset because he just want to help. So it's that's the fresh like experience that I have in my head, but I guess it's happening. It start happening when we are really, really very young, and it can cause a lot of problems. And you are not wrong saying that the consequences can be catastrophic because you know we can break our marriage, friendship, or whatever just because of misunderstanding, just because we are not able to maybe co-regulate,
mhm.
the feelings with other person because no one taught us to do that, and we ignore it for so long that there is, I think, two patterns. Either you become numb or or it becomes so big that you have to do something with that. pay attention, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I love the example that you use because I feel like that's something that every single one of us has done. I just want to
Uh-huh.
help. I'm trying to help you. Why is that not okay? Like, I just had the purest of intentions. And I mean, I've done that plenty of times before as well and had that same like misunderstanding, like what you're saying. Um, and I think the other side of that as well is not only letting the other person struggle and sit with their discomfort, it's sitting with our discomfort in that moment because a lot of the time, if we don't know how to sit with discomfort, it makes us
Yeah.
uncomfortable to watch someone else sit with it. And that's why we want to swoop in. That's why we want to go in and rescue and make it easy because we're uncomfortable watching the discomfort. And
Mhm.
that, like, it's just this whole cycle that happens. Um, and you're right. I think that people do, they either become really numb and really detached, not only from the discomfort, but from all of their emotions, because you really can't pick and choose at the end of the day if you're disassociating all the time. Um, or like you said, they have to deal with it because if they don't, it's going to eat them alive. And
Yeah.
both of those things are, opposite ends of the scale, but they're both not places we really want to sit in. Like most people will say, oh, yeah, it's great that I don't have to be emotional. Like I'm so stoic, I'm such a rock. But you miss out on all those good things as well. You miss out on the joy, on the happiness, on, even things like intimacy and romance. You miss out on the laughter, all those fantastic, beautiful
Yeah.
things that we get to experience as humans. And if you're really numb and you're really closed off, you may think you feel a lot of those things, but you're not really getting the full spectrum. Um,
Yeah.
and if it goes the other way and it just starts to eat you alive and you are forced to deal with it, that's probably going to be way more uncomfortable than if you just dealt with all those little discomforts along the way, because suddenly you're dealing with all of them at once. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've probably been there. We've had similar journeys. I've certainly been there. That is actually a worse place to be than just dealing with that
Yeah.
little thing
I
that's happening in
agree.
the moment.
Yes, I agree. And I believe many will recognize themselves. How many times when someone asks you, well, let me ask you, when was the last time when you said, oh, I'm fine, but you are not? Like
Probably
we're so
yesterday.
used to be fine. Exactly. We're so used to be fine and good and strong, and I will just suppress what I feel because it's not allowed to show your discomfort because my parent says that it's just too much, or I was told, oh, you are overreacting or
Hmm.
overthinking or whatever we listen. And there is no judgment and accusation in whatever we share today towards our parents or friends or teachers or whoever. It's just to help now when we are adults to start slowly recognizing those moments and have a compassion towards ourselves and whoever maybe cause all that.
Yeah,
Yes, so yeah, we
absolutely.
are always fine even when we are not.
And I love that you asked that because I did
Yeah.
do this yesterday. And, I
Uh-huh.
was talking to someone and I did have to, it was a situation where I needed to explain some things that I didn't realize that they were making me uncomfortable still. I had gone through and I'd done some healing on them, done some work on them. And I went in, I had the conversation that I needed to have. And then when I got home, I just got exhausted. I had to cancel one of my appointments. I was like, I just feel like I want to curl into a ball and, drink a cup of tea and nap for about 12 hours. Like I'm so tired. And I realized that it was because I'd become uncomfortable in that moment. And instead of staying in my body, which is where I am 99% of the time, I had disassociated. I had just tried to put it down and I had disassociated from myself and, pulled myself away from that so that I could move through that conversation with a little bit more ease, so that I could move through that conversation without giving this person all of my vulnerability and emotions because it didn't feel okay to do so. But because I'm so used to being centered and being with my emotions and sitting with them, it actually exhausted me to go back into that old pattern that I hadn't done for such a long time and to take myself away from that. And it was a really great reminder, especially like with this conversation that we're having today, that
Yeah,
when we do shut all that down, it actually takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of effort. And it is very tiring on our bodies, even if we don't realize because we're used to it. We're used to feeling tired all the time. We're used to going, oh, it's just too much. Everything's hard. I'm just exhausted all the time. And that is just my norm. And we forget to have a look at all those little things that actually add to that, that don't have to
exactly.
be our norm and that we can shift. So I love that you asked that question.
Yes, and now talking about the body, um, body will show the sign of discomfort to first, to remind us that whatever is, it could be situation, it could be a person, but it's not in a line with us. It's not
Mm-hmm.
in a line with what we value, what we believe. So that discomfort is not necessarily bad, like to avoid. It's actually not supposed to be avoided. And if it will usually present as a lack of sleep, insomnia. Now I'm talking from my own experience. Um, or maybe tiredness, like for you, feel exhausted, and we sometimes, we most of the time actually think that feeling tired is coming when you're physically doing something hard, but mental tiredness could be um, even harder, and we do not understand because we don't have language and knowledge around that. No one taught us. And I'm really, really blessed to live in a time when information is available to us. If you open up your mind and if you listen to Molly and Eleonora talking about all these things, I'm just joking, but um, I'm glad that I have opportunity to my own experience. It doesn't matter how hard it is to share with others, because in this way, um, we discuss discomfort that we couldn't discuss with anyone else before because it's forbidden. We learn to not to feel it. So
Yes. Yeah.
listening to body and that first signs is really, really very important.
Yeah, and just
Yeah.
like you said, opening your mind to it as well, like opening your mind to um, starting to think about the idea of discomfort, starting to think about where might it show up in my life, whether it's big or whether it's small. Where might it be showing up in my life that I'm actually avoiding it, even if it's something really little? And how can we just sit with that for a moment? Like, we're never going to come in and go, yep, I'm just going to suddenly start sitting with discomfort for the rest of the afternoon. Like, never.
No,
It's not
of
quite
course.
that easy. But how can we start to recognize, well, what does discomfort even mean to us? Like,
Mm,
we all have these different stories. And, at the start of this, usually you and I come out with, I think, a lot more detailed explanations around
mm,
things. And even for the two of us at the start, we sort of really had to feel our way into talking about what discomfort feels like to us and how that shows up, even after we'd prepared for this podcast, because we're just not used to thinking about, well, what is discomfort? Where does it show up? And how am I avoiding it? How do I react when I do that? And I notice it. And even just moving through that could take a little while to just really build that awareness and get comfortable with the idea. And then the first step after that is just going, can I sit with that for a moment? Like when I see someone struggling and I really want to run in and help, can I take a breath and just sit with it for 10 seconds first and then go in and offer the help? And next time, can I sit with it for a little bit longer until eventually I watch how they deal with it? And I give them that space to do, like you said, I do all the learning and everything themselves. But just starting with those little baby steps.
Do you think we
Mhm.
can notice discomfort and understand it ourselves, or something, or there is a need for something to happen, like to hit us, or we need to be open to talk, or not even talk, but um, accept if someone else is noticing.
Mm,
You know, we can be very I don't think we can do that on ourselves. Again, from my own experience, like talking with you a lot and with some other people from our coaching industry, to say so. um there was a lot of realization after that kind of conversation. So that's where I'm coming from. I was not aware that I was in discomfort, and I did not deal with that. It's like if we ignore it, it won't disappear. I'm 100% sure it will maybe change the shape, depends on situation, but it's still going to be there. And we will continue not noticing. Maybe feeling, yes, maybe have a sleepless nights, um, or appetite, and then you start putting weight and you wonder, oh, what's going on, or become I don't know, sugar addicted, um, any kind of avoidance that we can make up, correct? Um,
mhm.
um, but sometimes we need something or someone to help us notice it. Um, I don't
Yeah,
know
I
what you
definitely
think
think
around that.
that'd be relatable for a lot of people. Like I strongly believe that we can do a lot of this ourselves, but we need to build that awareness first. And that awareness, especially around discomfort, I think does come from those external things, like you've just said. It comes from having those conversations, having something happen that makes us feel uncomfortable and actually noticing the discomfort.
Mhm.
Listening to a conversation like this and starting to bring in that awareness, having these things come in externally that help us build that awareness around the fact that maybe discomfort is something that I should think about. Maybe it's something I should take a little bit of notice of. And then I definitely think that it does take a while to do that. It takes a while with, like you
Mhm.
said, those different either conversations or experiences coming in before we really start to go, oh yeah, that's what discomfort feels like. That's the
Mhm.
different ways it can show up. So yeah, I think you're right there. And that was interesting to think about as you were talking about
Mhm.
it, because um we can build the awareness to do it ourselves, but to build that awareness, I think you're right. I think we do need those outside ideas to start coming in to help us build that up first until we get to a point where we have enough knowledge and awareness, I guess. Like we've built a little knowledge pile of, oh yeah, that could be discomfort. That's what that
Mhm.
feels like. Oh, that's a little bit how I deal with it. That's how I'm avoiding it. And once we have that little knowledge pile, then we can start doing it ourselves because we've got something to build off of. I
Mhm.
think that discomfort is one of those things that's just so suppressed and dismissed for so long that it is extremely hard to even recognize it just by yourself.
Yes. And I want to add on that, it that awareness can sometimes um, come suddenly, like something hit us. And that's the pattern that I notice within me, but also with other women around me. It could come, for example, with divorce. with loss of person or someone, um, with illness. What I'm hearing lately, often from women, is when the kids leave the home,
Mm-hmm.
for college or whatever, and suddenly you have that empty nest, and everyone talking about that. It's silence, in a house. And very often we will say, oh, you know, the kids are too loud. I wish if someone just, take them for a day so I can rest. Every time when that happened to me, I didn't know what to do with myself. It was too quiet in a home. And oh my God, I can hear myself. I can hear my thoughts. And, that's discomfort. I didn't know what to do with all these thoughts that I can hear in my head suddenly. So that could be also the moments that are like dramatically coming up, in one moment, and then you start maybe noticing. Um, Not all of us have a tools how to deal with that. And I, I wanna say in our last recording, we talk about journaling. Do you think that journaling is one of the tools how to start noticing? That could be helpful. What do you think?
I definitely do. I mean, I think journaling is like a great answer for everything.
Of course.
I hold journaling on a very high pedestal, but yes, to answer that question, I do. I think that we can, because even if you journal and you sit down with a prompt like what we said before, like what is discomfort to me? Where do
Mm-hmm.
I notice discomfort, whether it's within myself or within other people? How do I react to it? How do I watch other people respond to it? Um,
Yeah.
when sometimes we notice avoidance, but we're hard to notice discomfort. So if I'm noticing avoidance, um, sorry, I just had so many thoughts then. If I'm noticing avoidance, then can I think about that moment before I go to do that avoidant thing? Like it could be like doom scrolling, that moment before I go to do that thing where I know I'm avoiding something, but I don't know what it is. What do I feel in that moment? And just write that down because that's going to start to tell you some information about discomfort. So I 100% think there can be some incredible journaling
Mm-hmm.
things in there. And it's not necessarily about like you can use those questions that I've just said as prompts. You can use other things I've talked about as prompts. Um, it could be that you listen to this episode and you go, oh, I've got some thoughts now, and you just go and write them
Mm-hmm.
down, like free range. But I think with everything, we get a bit caught up, especially with journaling, about having special prompts. And then we can avoid sitting with the discomfort, sitting with our thoughts by going to look for the prompts. And the best thing to do is just to ask yourself for any feeling or any situation or any experience is, what do I actually think this is? Like, what do I think discomfort is? What do I think joy is? What do I think avoidance is? Um, and where did I get that idea from?
Mm-hmm.
When I think about, dealing with that, what comes to mind? And they're just those little core things about how we start to learn ourselves in a not necessarily an easy way. It can be uncomfortable to sit with those things, but I think in a simplified way is just asking those really simple
Great.
questions. Um, and there's so many tools to deal with it. Like in my Tai Chi class, actually, like when you're talking about silence, I was thinking about how this week in my class, I had someone talk to me afterwards about the music that is played during my classes. And so most people want music played in the background. We do some meditations at the end. It's a lot of just sort of building that atmosphere for people. And people like to have the music. And I actually had someone come up and talk to me about how they would prefer to have silence in the class.
Oh,
And, I said to them, I'm like, I'm exactly the same. I don't mind the music, but I drive around in silence. I work from home. So during the day, I'm by myself a lot. I am really comfortable with silence, but I know that most people are not. And even just that in itself, like you said, that discomfort of when I'm in silence, what comes up for me?
Mm-hmm.
because we are taught to distract in those moments of silence. We put music on, we put the TV on, even if we're not really listening or watching, we go somewhere where it's loud and noisy. We put ourselves in these situations where there's always something going on and something happening, so we don't have to be fully present with ourselves. And like, so we had that conversation in Tai Chi, but I also had people in my class today actually. And Tai Chi is very, if you don't know much about Tai Chi, it is very slow and it is very gentle. And it's very controlled movements, having awareness in your body. And I actually had multiple people in my class today who kept trying to speed through the movements, who kept trying to rush forwards. And I really had to spend some time bringing people back and reminding people, like, we're here to go slow. We're here to drop into this room and to actually be present with ourselves, with how our body is moving, and with what we're actually doing with our body as we're moving through the movements. um, taking notice of what we're doing when we're exercising our body in this way and watching people trying to slow down. And it is a very hard thing for people to do, even in a Tai Chi class where all they've got to do is listen to my voice and follow the movements. People still want to speed through and be distracted. Um, and so it's just those really simple things that, like from a Tai Chi perspective, that we teach of, can you just take a few breaths? And we do a movement called open and close, where you have your hands in front of you and you bring them to shoulder width and back in. And as you do that, you breathe in and you breathe out. And they're the sort of tools that we can use. Is, like you said, journaling. It can be dropping into the breath sometimes with hand movements, can make it a little bit easier for us to drop in, and just sitting with it for, like I said before, like a moment and
Yeah.
seeing how that feels and noticing when I sit for with it for a moment, how do I want to react? What do I want to do when I actually notice this feeling? I think that was a very long answer to your question.
Yes, but it makes me thinking um, there might be a little trap in if we don't know how to, because we don't have, as I said, language or tools or knowledge. No one taught us how to sit with ourselves. Um, it could be, it could look like you become aware, but there is a feeling like you don't have a control, like you're
Mhm.
losing a control. What I mean with that, there is an old system of ignoring discomfort um, that is not working anymore. It's almost like a mechanism to protect ourselves that we build up around that. But now that part of us that we become aware, now it can't do the job that was created in the first place. And it could bring a little bit of confusion. It could feel awkward, or maybe even scary sometimes, like what's going on, because we still did not build that new system that will replace it and where understanding will be. So to go back to noticing, I do think that sometimes we need to sit with someone and discuss if we are not able to discuss with ourselves. And yes, I am the person that can't stand the silence, at least not all the time. I start changing that, totally unconscious that I'm doing a change. But you just remind me that before, as soon as I wake up, I have to put the music on or television on, and I was not really listening, but
Mhm.
I needed a noise around me because the nervous system used to have that noise around, and
Yeah.
suddenly in a silence is very hard to function. And that's that in between space that can be scary and confusing. Oh, what am I gonna do now? Because um, discomfort change address. Like sent to a different address, and now I don't know what to do. Yeah, so I'm not like I don't have any high degree, so please, I want everyone to understand that we are talking from the knowledge that we gain in a school that we went through, and with our really with our own experience and deep thinking that we have around those experiences. So yes, for everyone could be different, but maybe it's good to say aloud that and share.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean that's why we do what we do as well. And I think that's why we have something really rich to bring to, like, not just on between us, but like really rich to bring in terms of what we do for work. So we have these extensive life experiences, the both of us. We've gone and been qualified as coaches as well, which I
Yeah.
think is an important point to add. It was a year of training, it wasn't just a weekend. Um, and we both just have really deep critical thinking skills when it comes to these things. And when you put all that together and you're able to be vulnerable enough to have the conversations like what you and I have been having for 12 months, that's when you get these magic little moments of, like, we've been able to get a lot better at discomfort because we have been able to move through all of these things and build these tools, but also to be able to have those conversations with each other, like you mentioned. And we've been able to build self-worth and self-trust and all those other beautiful things we've spoken about. And that's not to say that you have to have a qualification or, extensive life experience to do that. But what it is to say is it's just that, I guess, to give some context as to where we're coming from with these conversations,
Exactly.
where these opinions and thoughts and ideas are coming from is very much like Eleanor was saying, it is our lived experience. We do have some training and qualifications in there, but this is very much just us and our thoughts. And I would love to know if other people experience discomfort completely
Mm.
differently. I'd
Yes,
be
that would be
genuinely
interesting.
interested. Yeah, yeah, because it would be really, really cool to broaden that conversation with people and to know a little bit more about what that looks like for other people and in their bodies as well.
Mhm.
I do know as well, we've talked about just before we started this call, you had this amazing line that you said around avoiding discomfort because we feel lonely. Do you remember what you were talking about there? Do you want to expand on that? Because I just thought that was gold.
Yeah. Um, as you know, our core need is to belong. Doesn't matter is that our family or group of friends, and um, if we are taught not to express discomfort, we repeat that word so many times. Discomfort can be any kind of feeling that is um, explained as a bad feeling and you're supposed to avoid it. That, of course, can bring loneliness because when you try to share that with someone and they dismiss it, especially when you're a teenager. I went through that a lot when I was teenager, and I noticing that with another teenager in my life, especially with the girls, where we've, you know, when they dismiss you and when they say, ah, it's nothing, of course you can feel lonely, and it can just build up on that. You start asking the question, so what is the point? Why I didn't even mention this, to my mom or to my dad if they can't understand, or if they say it's not important. Um, that loneliness we can carry on throughout the life and bring into a new kind of relationships. Every time when you try to talk about that, if you give yourself permission to notice your discomfort and to address it or say aloud. If we are not with a person who can hold the space for us, we can again be dismissed and just feel lonely again. And I think there is one more thing important, but maybe it would be good to mention that it's more present between girls because we are wired and naturally more curious. We like to analyzing things more deeply than the boys, and then we grown up somehow earlier than boys, right? And there is a social moment where society will, I don't know the social moment, if that proper word in English, it doesn't matter, but I hope everyone will understand. But society will push us into that loneliness too. You know, we have that possibility or superpower to start very early noticing other people feelings, you know, the energy around them. And then we start adjusting ourselves. Like, I won't be too loud because if I'm loud, it will, you know, annoy
Mm.
them and then they will react and they won't love me. So very early we carry on the role of a good girl. But all the time you can feel so definitely my personal experience. So you're growing up with discomfort but with desperate need to be a good girl because that means you're accepted, you belong, you're loved, and they can hear you only if you are good, if you're a perfect student and you know very good friends, and oh, she will never say no, she will always help you, you know. And it's a lie that it brings confidence and happiness. I was always there for everyone else because it was normalized for me. Like that's what it was true for me. That's what you're supposed to do. And now when you mentioned that, and while I'm talking about that, I'm realizing how lonely was my life until I was in that role. Very, very lonely. And I believe many can recognize. So maybe not intentionally, but people around us can, you know, just push us into that space, not because they want to hurt us, not
Yeah.
necessary. Yeah.
And I'd really like to expand on that by asking you a question.
Yeah.
And like you've mentioned that there's sort of, I guess, pushing down those feelings that have discomfort associated with them,
Mhm.
whether, and was there also then a different form of discomfort from being the good girl, from trying to please everyone else, from pushing those feelings down?
Oh, um, suppressing the feelings.
Yeah. Did
What
that
good
also
can
cause
that?
discomfort, but like just a different form of discomfort?
Definitely, definitely. Um, so when you feel discomfort and you are not aware and you learn to suppress the feelings, you can bring that into a new relationship and justify every time when you do that. Like sometimes if you can't sit with somebody else's big emotions, you need to leave the room because you feel discomfort and you don't know what to do with that.
Mm.
Um, or I had tendency to be quiet. My discomfort will sit in my throat. And I most of the time I've felt like someone is holding my throat and I couldn't talk. I physically couldn't open my mouth. So it can represent itself in a many different ways. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I really strongly believe that the more we talk, the more we share, the more we will understand and maybe help someone.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely answered my question there. And like you've said, I felt the same things. Like I went through being a very lonely through being a child and then also through being a teenager in sort of two different ways. And when you were talking about that example and when you were sharing it, it had me thinking about how we've been talking through most of this episode about how discomfort is something we really don't recognize and we're really taught not to look at. But I think there are certain types of discomfort that are normalized in society, and we're maybe just not taught to think about them as discomfort because we're taught that we're supposed to feel like that. Everyone feels like that. And the ones that are normalized is that, I'm always putting everyone else first, but I don't feel good about it. I am
Mhm.
constantly suppressing my feelings and I'm feeling miserable. And all of those things that come from, like you said, being the good girl, showing up, making everyone else happy, of having that other form of discomfort, I think is just like a normalized way of going, oh yeah, but everyone else is happy, so it's fine. I'm not supposed to be happy.
Mhm.
I'm the one that's supposed to show up and do what other people have said. I'm supposed to play this role that I've played for such a long time and I don't know any different. And so I don't associate it as being discomfort.
Mhm.
Loneliness can be very uncomfortable for people as well.
Yeah.
I think we've normalized these particular stereotypical roles that we play, and those are normalized forms of discomfort that we're not taught to think about as discomfort, as being uncomfortable. Because if we do think about them as being uncomfortable, then we realize that actually we don't want to be here. We now want to go and seek the comfort. We now want to go and do the things that are going to get us back to being comfortable and take us out of those roles and back into who we are. That's what I was thinking about when you were sharing that story, is that there
Yes.
actually are normalized versions of discomfort. We're just taught to think about them very differently.
Yeah, I agree with everything. And what about praise? They will praise you for being easy to work with, or oh, she's easygoing, or he's easygoing, or oh, he never complain. I don't know, or have a high pain tolerance, or whatever it can be. So we are praised to be somebody else. Because it's so we are praised to bring discomfort to ourselves, to bring comfort to someone else. So
Mm-hmm.
of course it's hard to notice and realize. And I have to say something else that is just coming up. I'm very motivated to talk about all we're talking about in this uh, recordings and conversations that we have in my country. What I keep noticing is people are laughing at this kind of conversations because they are hard. It's very hard to face ourselves. It's very hard to sit, as you said, in silence and, in a moment, because then we have to face ourselves. That's where we are fully honest. And excuse that I hear very often here, I can't be bothered.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't have time to do that. Like I'm perfect. I'm good. I don't have problems. And there is no one person in the world that does not have at least one thing. I don't want to call it problem, or let's say issue, or not a challenge in a
Yeah.
life that can really sometimes grow up big. So it brings me a lot of sadness, which is okay. I can sit with my sadness now. I learned that. I embrace my anxious state that I can have. I even embrace my, how did they call it? A melancholic depression. It was a huge word for me, but coming from in this kind of environment, it was understanding to go to a process, not to accept that there is discomfort. It's not depression for me, it's melancholic discomfort that was not able to express itself for any reason. And I can see how strongly it's present in mentality of my people, to say so, the people from my country. And with that sadness, a lot of motivation is coming, and I'm really surprised with the confidence that, as you said, when you make the space in your mind and in your body for something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that share. Thank you. It's interesting how other people react. If we start to sit with our discomfort, if we start to want to grow, we start to have these conversations, we start to try to talk about it. You're right, people can be very dismissive. They can use jokes is a great one that people use
Mhm.
frequently to not have to
Mhm.
deal with things. Especially jokes that are self-deprecating as well. And also that dismissive of I don't have time.
Mhm.
I'm not dealing with that because I just don't have time for it. And I think that's again something that we've just been taught as a way to we keep ourselves so busy that we never have time to actually deal with the things that really matter. Um, and so it's very interesting, like you were saying, that for you the depression was really just this deep discomfort that had nowhere to go. And I think that really ties beautifully back into what we were saying about earlier, that it shows up in the body, and when we push it down and we shove it down and we try to forget about it, it does come out at some point. And that's what it
Yes.
can look like for some people, is if you are, I guess, living with that discomfort of suppressing everything down all the time, not being who you are, not living within, your truth, and in a world that, sorry, not in a world, in a life that is aligned with you, then that discomfort turns into things like depression. It turns into intense loneliness. It turns into this deep sadness
Mhm.
because, and then you go, I don't know how I got here. And
Mhm.
that can be a very hard place to come back from. I've had that experience as well. It can be a very hard place to come back from. Um,
Yeah.
and that's not how everyone gets there by any means, but it is how some of us get there. And it is, like we said before, those little moments of if I start having those conversations, if I start being brave enough, and we talk about modeling in coaching, can you model something to someone else? And what that means is essentially, it's like show up how you want to be treated. Show people that it's okay to be vulnerable by being vulnerable yourself. Show people that it's
Yes.
okay to have these discussions by having them yourself, by being brave enough to take that leap. And whilst it's very difficult, being okay with if someone else is not ready to meet you there.
Yeah.
Keep
Not
going until
dismiss
you
it.
find the person that is. Yeah. Yeah. Like keep
Yeah.
going until you find the people that are willing to meet you there and have that conversation, because it's okay for
Exactly.
other people at different spots on their journey. Um, and it can be very, I don't know what the word is, um, upsetting to feel misunderstood if, you try to
Mhm.
bring a conversation like discomfort to someone and they are very jovial about it and they're very dismissive about it. You can feel very misunderstood and that can feel very hurtful. Um, and just sort of being able to step back and go, okay, I can see that they haven't been taught how to deal with discomfort and they're not quite there yet to be willing to learn. Can I go find someone else who is? Can I go find someone else to have this conversation with? Can I find more videos like this to listen to so that I can have those conversations? Um, because it's a very big and hard topic for people, and clearly we have a lot to say about it. Um, it is a very interesting thing to talk about and think about once you start moving through it, and it
Yeah.
takes a while. It's supposed to take a while. But yeah, if you try to have those conversations, you try to start growing through that, don't be discouraged if other people are not there yet, because a lot of people aren't, and that's also okay.
Yes, exactly. I agree with every word. And don't think that you are having a breakdown going
Mm-hmm.
through awareness or healing. It's just transition in your life. You are transforming in most probably in a person we're supposed to be from the beginning. Um, but we are conditioned, to adjust to our environment. So if we can help with these conversations to mm, help anyone else to be closer to themselves, I think our mission is accomplished, like we did what we want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What a beautiful way to put that. If we can help other people feel closer to themselves.
Yes.
Too bad that's too long of a title for our podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful title. It could
Yeah. I
even
feel like
be a
it's almost
book.
like a, is it like a subtitle? Like you have like between us.
Uh-huh.
If we can help other people feel closer to themselves, our mission
Yes.
is complete. Um,
Yes. Oh,
amazing.
that sound now even better when you say that in a proper English.
Well, it has been lovely chatting with you. I feel like I've
As
really
always.
expanded a lot of my thoughts around discomfort just as we've been talking as well, and being able to explore a lot of those. It's been a while since I've been able to have a really deep conversation around discomfort. So it has been, for me, it's been very fun. And getting that
Oh, definitely for
expansion.
me.
Yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to add before we finish?
Well, with the subject that can be big and expand in a million of different ways, I'm not gonna go into adding anything anymore because we could sit here for hours. But well, you never know. Maybe we continue talking about that in a different way.
Yeah,
So no,
absolutely.
I don't have anything to add except that the freedom that we can feel with every new awareness when we are open up is just amazing. And it's like opening many doors to happiness and joy in life and to have a quality life. So that's what we that was the reason why we came here publicly, to help open the door. That's my
Like we're
ad.
getting so many good new titles out of this to help open the door. I need to like write a little sticky note. I'm
Well, you
ever
are a
doubting myself, I'll
writer.
be like, here's all the things that we're doing that are coming out of this episode.
Yes, beautiful. See
Fantastic.
you again.
See you next time.
Bye.